Hi, British Vogue. This is Linda Evangelista, and
she was one of the most famous faces of the 1990s. Vogue magazine once called her the most beautiful woman in the world. Her name was Linda Evangelista. She didn't just wear designer clothes. She helped shape what it meant to be a supermodel. When poor, she first cut her hair short and showed up for fashion shows in Milan. She had 20 bookings. But after the haircut, 15 of those shows canceled her.
When I first cut my hair off and I went to Milano to do the shows, I was booked for like 20 shows. About 15 of them canceled me because they didn't understand the haircut at first.
People didn't understand the new look. But just one season later, everyone wanted that same hairstyle. That was the Linda effect. She was everywhere. On Versace runways, in the famous Freedom music video by George Michael, on magazine covers. She wasn't just part of the fashion world, she was leading it. Then, all of a sudden, she disappeared. What happened to Linda Evangelista? Why did she vanish when she was at the peak of her fame? And how did one decision change her life and her appearance forever?
I really wanted to wear fashion. I wanted to model because I was obsessed with fashion. I was obsessed with clothing. I just loved it, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. I wasn't discovered in a mall.
Before she went silent and before the surgeries, Linda was part of a big change in the fashion world. She stood beside other legendary models like Naomi Campbell, Cindy Crawford, Christy Turlington, and Claudia Schiffer. These women weren't just modeling clothes, they were changing the way people saw fashion. But Linda's story was different from many others. She wasn't discovered by accident. She didn't just get lucky. She went after modeling on purpose. From a young age, she loved fashion. She played with her aunt's makeup, collected costume jewelry, and covered her bedroom walls with pages from fashion magazines. She dreamed about becoming a model and worked hard to get there. She started small. Her early jobs paid just a few dollars an hour, mostly for bridal catalogs in Canada. She saved up all her money to build a photo portfolio. When she finally made it to Europe, she struggled.
It took me a few years to get going. I worked every day, but I didn't do genius things right from the beginning. So I went through a lot to get where I am, and I appreciate it. And it's what I hope for.
Many of the jobs went to taller girls who looked more traditionally like models. But Linda didn't quit. It took her years to get noticed. She wasn't an overnight star. She worked every single day, slowly building a name for herself. Finally, she got a booking with Vogue, and everything changed. From that moment, she was in. Her career really took off when she started working with photographer Steven Meisel. They clicked creatively and made powerful images together. These photos weren't just pretty, they helped shape a whole era of fashion. They were polished, dramatic, and unforgettable. Their teamwork turned fashion into art. As fashion trends changed, from simple styles to more glamorous looks, Linda changed too. She knew how to evolve with the times. Then came the moment that made her more than just a fashion model. She appeared in a music video that reached people far beyond the fashion world. Suddenly, kids on the street recognized her. She had crossed over into pop culture. At that point, she had it all: the face, the talent, and the discipline. Everyone wanted to see what she would do next. But then, she disappeared.
Very easy to work once with a photographer because everybody's curious, but to get rebooked over and over and over, that takes, a lot of factors. They have to love you.
For a long time, Linda was completely gone from the public. No interviews, no modeling jobs, no red carpet events. While other supermodels continued to appear in ads and walk the runway, Linda stayed silent. Naomi Campbell was still modeling. Cindy Crawford was starting a skincare line. Claudia Schiffer was still active in fashion. But Linda, nothing. Not even a paparazzi photo. People wondered what had happened. Had she retired? Was she sick? No, one knew. The fashion world, which had once followed her every move, now had no idea where she was. The truth was that Linda wasn't taking a break. She was hiding. Not from the fame, but from herself.
We were just hitting fashion people,
And suddenly I was being recognized by kids on the street and that's what really did it.
In 2015, she went through a cosmetic procedure called cool sculpting. It's a non-surgical treatment that's supposed to freeze and reduce fat cells. It was advertised as quick and safe. But for Linda, it went terribly wrong. Instead of shrinking, some of her fat cells grew larger and became hard. She had developed a rare condition called paradoxical adipose hyperplasia, or PAH. It left her body with strange lumps and shapes. Her arms couldn't rest normally at her sides because of the bulges. She said the results made her unrecognizable, and the worst part was that the damage could not be reversed. For more than 5 years, Linda lived in almost complete isolation. She avoided mirrors. She turned down every modeling job. She stopped seeing friends. She didn't go to events, not even the ones that celebrated the supermodel era she had helped define. This wasn't about being vain. It wasn't about trying to stay young. It was about her identity. Her career had been built on her appearance, and now she didn't feel like herself anymore. She said that her son would sometimes ask, "Mommy, do you remember when you used to be fun? Why don't you laugh anymore?" That broke her heart. The procedure hadn't just changed her body. It had deeply hurt her spirit. She was no longer the woman she used to be. Her confidence was gone. She fell into a deep depression and didn't want to go outside. And while she was going through all of this, the fashion industry said nothing. No designers reached out. No magazines offered her a photo shoot. The same world that she once ruled seemed to have forgotten her.
You see the angle of my arms?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can't put them next to my body because this bulge is making them veer off in an angle. Versace won't want to dress me with that sticking out of my body.
Eventually, Linda decided to take action. She filed a $50 million lawsuit against the company behind Cool Sculpting. She said they had caused her physical harm, emotional trauma, and financial loss. The company responded by saying the procedure was safe and widely used. But for Linda, it was already too late. The damage had been done. What made her story even more painful was that it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a public breakdown. It wasn't caught on video. It was a quiet, private kind of suffering. Her fall from the spotlight didn't happen because of scandals. It happened because she tried to meet impossible beauty standards and got hurt by them. She did what many women are encouraged to do, try to stay young, flawless, and desirable. But the result was heartbreaking. Then, in 2022, after nearly 5 years away from the camera, Linda returned. But this time, it wasn't for a designer brand or a fashion show. She posed for the cover of British Vogue. This wasn't the kind of glamorous shoot people were used to seeing her in. The lighting was carefully done. Her poses were chosen to hide some of the damage. Tape and elastic were used to shape her jawline. Part of her neck was hidden. Linda wasn't pretending nothing had happened. She was showing the world what had, in a way, she could control. The images were powerful, not because she looked perfect, but because she looked like someone who had survived something hard. In her interview for the magazine, Linda said, "I miss my job so much, but I can't just take modeling jobs like I used to, not with how I look now." Her honesty hit hard. This was someone who had been one of the most photographed women in the world. And now, she was telling the truth that so many women live with. The pressure to look a certain way can be damaging, and sometimes the harm can't be undone.
My son used to say, before I told him the truth, he used to make comments frequently like, Mommy, do you remember when you used to be fun? How come you don't laugh anymore? So I hate what this has done to my relationship with him.
The Vogue cover made headlines everywhere. People weren't talking about how glamorous she looked. They were talking about her bravery and finally telling her story. This wasn't just a comeback. It was a moment of truth, a moment when the fashion industry had to face the cost of its own impossible standards. Soon after, she appeared in a campaign for Fendi, celebrating 25 years of their famous baguette bag. In black and white photos, she stood beside fellow supermodel Kate Moss. There were no flashy effects, just Linda, present, calm, and real. For the first time in years, she stepped back into fashion, not as a flawless model, but as a woman who had lived through something most people couldn't imagine. She didn't claim to be healed. In another interview, she said, "Am I cured mentally? Absolutely not. But I'm trying to love myself again." This wasn't a full return to modeling. She wasn't walking runways or starring in beauty campaigns like before, but it meant something even deeper. It was a way of saying, "I'm still here, even if the world stopped looking for me." Linda didn't come back to prove she was perfect. She came back to prove that being imperfect doesn't make you worthless. She started opening up about mental health, loss, aging, and how hard it can be to look in the mirror when your appearance was once your entire career. This was the same woman who once helped define what beauty looked like. Now she was showing that beauty can include struggle, survival, and honesty. She didn't try to reinvent herself. She didn't show up with a brand new look. She simply showed up with her pain, her strength, and the quiet courage that had always been part of her. Linda Evangelista didn't just return to the spotlight. She redefined what a real comeback looks like.